You're watching the Restoration Industry Book Review, a podcast that encourages roofers, flood and fire mitigation contractors to continually learn and grow to improve their businesses and lives. I'm Matt Danskin, a training consultant best known for teaching restoration contractors to consistently develop productive referral relationships with insurance agents. I'm sitting down with experts from across the industry to dive into the books that help them improve and make an impact on the restoration industry. All right, guys, we are back at it again for episode 8 of the Restoration Industry Book Review. I'm really excited. This book has come together to be really enjoyable. And I've got two awesome guests on the show today. Number one, I've got David Summerly. I'm going to bring David on just to introduce himself first, and then we'll bring Richard on as well. All right, David, tell everybody who you are, what you got going on, man.
How's it going? David Summerly down here in beautiful Southwest Florida, living in paradise, loving life, and just here to learn and grow and help others as well.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. I've known David for, I think, a few years now. We go to a bunch of conferences together, hang out together. I just love kind of his positivity and his work ethic that he brings to the table. So it's really excited to have him on the show this week. I sprung it on him, so he had about, I think, 2 days to prepare and read an entire book, but I know he managed to do it. So my next guest is Richard Rossouw, and here he is.
Hey, everyone. It's Richard here. I'm actually in East Texas. The weather is cooling down, actually, over here, so we're enjoying it. Excited to be on the show, Matt.
Awesome. Again, thanks for both of you guys for coming on. And I got into this book, it was recommended to us here to check out. And I think a lot of the things I had kind of stumbled upon through life, through, trying to get better at things, but didn't really understand what I was doing. And this book really shed a lot of light onto what those things are that are really being effective in us learning a skill and getting better at a skill. But I wanted to, kind of just jump into this book. Richard, can you give everybody just kind of a breakdown of what this book, The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, Greatness Isn't Born, It's Grown. Here's How. Can you give us a little synopsis of the book for everybody watching?
Sure. So I love how that greatness isn't born, it's grown, and here's how is the synopsis of the book. But basically, Daniel Coyle goes through three major aspects to what really drives what we perceive as talent. And so he goes into the three major areas are, the first one's practice and what he calls deep practice. It's basically a different look on really practice in and of itself, and also what made the practice of the greats, the athletes, the leaders in this world, what made their practice different than everyone else's. The second aspect that he takes on talent, again, and with the mindset that this isn't something that someone's just born with, it's something that is fostered and from these three different aspects, is, and I have it here, is, I believe he calls it ignition. Yeah, there we go, ignition. So basically, the talent is ignited by some sort of event, person, inspirational moment, something that, I love one example. He talks about the lottery. Basically, there's this group of students who are given the same opportunity. One is in a poor neighborhood, one's in a not poor neighborhood, and they're all given the opportunity to have instruments and practice. Well, there was just so many people interested that they used a lottery system basically, and the kids who won the lottery, it was like once in a lifetime moment for them, and they did much better than the other children did, who weren't necessarily impressed with the opportunity. And that's one of the real quick examples of what he calls ignition. And the last one is master coaching. My favorite part of the book was the master coaching aspect, because basically he goes into the details of what makes the coaches of these people different. And it's really not what I expected. Like you said, Matt, there's a lot of things in here that aren't necessarily new, but he definitely comes at it from a different angle and makes you think. And there's just so much here that I believe anybody, especially if you're a business owner, could take away from. I believe this last section, the master coaching section, is the most beneficial. It's every stage of the way he pulls from before, but once you get to that master coaching, to me it was really inspirational. I was like, this is something that I want to implement in my life right away.
Awesome. Yeah, and I know. Thanks for doing that. I think that really captures what this kind of segments and what this book is about. I know for me, as somebody that consults and trains with people every day, this was huge for me. I think it's going to make me a better trainer. I think it's going to make me a better consultant, because it's really showing me, some of the things that I'm already doing, but why they're effective, some areas that I can be more effective, and understanding how that talent is built. I won't, get too much into that. But David, I want to, you work with a team, you're constantly training people, just as, this show is meant for people in the restoration industry. And a lot of the people here are selling, building, and collecting, right? They're doing all these things. They're working with teams. They're having to train people. And so I think this is a no-brainer, something for people. If you're spending any amount of time training people, you should try to be as effective at that as you possibly can. And I think this is a really easy way to become more effective at it. David, can you tell me from this book, there's some takeaways that you're going to be using with the people that you train in your company?
Yeah. So one of the big ones I took away, you'd already mentioned it, Richard, was the top talent. It's learned. It's not natural. So I've heard people argue back and forth over the years, like, that guy's a born salesman. That guy's a born this, born that gal, whatever. And so I've always wondered, well, what's inherent and what's learned? And, that argument goes back and forth. This book really dives deep into that. And one of the things that I thought was a really interesting example was the Ninja Turtles of Renaissance history. So your Michelangelo, your Donatello, your Leonardo, your Raphaels, they were born great artists. They learned it. They were mentored from the time they were a small child, went through all the basics, started from the very bottom and learned everything. And so that was really exciting for me, because as I bring people in from outside of our industry to come learn, they've never done this before. They may not be sure if they can do it or not. And what I've learned from this book is that anybody with enough time and effort, anybody can learn and become what it is they need to become, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. They talked about in that segment the artist guilds, where those artists are starting from somebody that knows nothing about this, and they're helping. For that sculptor, they're sharpening his tools. They're helping select and move around this material. Like it's years before they even get to start working the material, but they're learning every aspect of it, and they're around it constantly. I think one of my favorite aspects of this book, I'm not a huge soccer fan, but he talks about soccer in Brazil, and I don't remember the name for the word for it, but they play
futsal.
What's that?
Futsal.
Futsal. So they play this condensed version of soccer.
Yep.
For you guys watching, where they use a smaller, heavier ball, and they're basically like in a room, like like the size of my garage, and they have half as many players, but they play that all the time, and they just become these phenomenal soccer or football players, because they're just kind of condensing the timelines. They get a lot more time with their foot on the ball. There's just over and over and over again, they're getting a lot of reps in really quickly. And I think that's something that we can transfer to the roofing restoration industry. I have guys that say, oh, well, my new guy only got like one inspection, so he's doing one inspection today. Well, he should go follow along the rest of the time with somebody else doing an inspection. Just a really simple way. So maybe he's not going to sell that deal. He's not going to make money off that deal, but he can do 3 inspections a day instead of that one. We can shrink down those timelines so that they can really get going. And that was one of the huge critical factors to these guys being more successful and more effective. The book talked a lot about that. That was one of the examples of these hotbeds for talent. Richard, do you want to talk a little bit about the hotbeds of talent and some of those aspects that you can see as transferable to what we're doing?
Yeah, so the Ninja Turtles of history, right? I love that. I don't think he actually mentioned, he might have, and I forgot. But yeah, I guess that's what they are. But he points out, and it's really interesting that all those guys they influenced history like no group really has. I mean, a group of them, and they all were born in Florence, Italy. Like, they were all from the same town. What made that place any different than any other of the cities of that time? And it wasn't necessarily a great place, but there's no doubt that all these guys, this group of people, came from the same place. And so he dives into that. What was it about this place? And he does that with the artists. He does that with the Brazilian soccer players. He does that with the Korean ladies tennis players. He does it with music students. And I was thinking about that. Like, how can I take this and bring this into like a business ownership, restoration contractor benefit? How can we make this, insert this into what we do?
Yeah.
Because one of the things is, okay, so the deep practice, basically being able to practice in a way that doesn't let you fail, but make mistakes that if you like find a plane. He has the guy who makes this trainer simulator. And basically, you're able to practice in the simulator without dying. Whereas up until like 1920, 1930, like the mortality rate was horrendous. It was like half of the people that got into a plane died. It was really high because they were and they were basically, to David's point, that this is not an unnatural mindset to think that people are born with this proficiency. Because so what they would do is they'd take you up in a plane, fly you up, do a bunch of loops, and if you came down sick, this wasn't meant for you. And I think we do that a lot with business ownership and people in the industry.
Sure.
Run them hard, give them 100 leads. If you can't handle it, this isn't for you. Like within the first few weeks,
Yeah.
and he kind of breaks that down and says, no, like, but everybody, we're talking the military, everyone, like, didn't like disregard him. They look at him, they look at what he had, they inspected it and said, no, that's not for us. And then, so he ends up selling these flight simulators to Russia, Germany, Japan, and eventually the United States, because he like shows up at one of these events and it's foggy. They were going to cancel it. And then he ends up says, you know what, I'll go up there. And so he flies a plane and comes down out of the mist flying just on instruments alone. And ironically enough, he affected the war because everybody was now like had equal skills because he had sold these things all over the world. But I was thinking, how can you give someone the opportunity to make all the mistakes, to fail, and really learn to run based off the process and system, right? Having a simulator, if you will. And I think that's a big part of it, having systems and processes in place that don't necessarily negate the skill of the person, but at the same time, let them learn while failing. I don't know, maybe David could talk more to this, as he's definitely, I'm working into that area more, trying to train people and identify. I just talked to my dad yesterday about a book he's reading. I forgot the title, but basically the idea of a business and growing a business at, we're talking $100 million status, is to lower the level of intelligence required. And that sounds bad up front, but basically your business should be so process and system oriented a dummy could do it. It's what Walmart did. It's what Ford did. It's what McDonald's did. In lawn care, there's a $100 million company called U.S. Lawns. And basically they say, we don't care what you know. We have a system that works and we've built it. Just jump into our system and it's going to work.
Yeah.
And we should be focused as business owners, and not just business owners, right? Salesmen, wherever you're at, working in a way, having a schedule that lets you, that's repeatable and lets you make mistakes. You're not the linchpin anymore. Your system is. So if you make a mistake, your system runs. It's moving. It's going to do okay. A lot of business owners I know in this industry don't give their guys a system. Don't give their guys processes. You run it, and if it fails, it's all on you. And
right.
There's truth to that, right? But
somewhat.
I think this book, after reading it, I know for me was like, I need to, and a lot of people need to focus more on giving people systems and processes that let them fail, let them learn from their failures, without dying, right? Without making them feel like.
That's a perfect analogy for these sales guys that are getting started in this, right? That they crash and burn, and people wonder why. Like, hey, I recruited 10 guys and only one of them stuck.
And they say, the rest of them weren't meant for it.
Right. Yeah. Was it that the 9 weren't meant for it, or you didn't have a way for them to train? And to that point, using systems, I'm huge on that. That's why what I do is called Restoration Referral System, because I want, whether you've got 20 years of roofing experience or you were I joke and say, if you were a sandwich artist 2 weeks ago, I want you to be able to step into this and be effective. And that's really I think the litmus test is you almost want that guy to be more effective at it than the guy who has 20 years of bad habits. David, in your world, tell me, this book talked a lot about deep practice, and that was a huge kind of game changer for me. Understanding what that deep practice is versus just doing something and not necessarily getting better very quickly with it. Tell me about that, maybe things that you're doing or going to start doing based on that deep practice method.
Yeah, deep immersion, going all in, not playing around the edges is something he mentioned in there. But from what you were mentioning about failures, Winston Churchill, what was his quote? I wrote it down earlier. Success is going from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. And, he mentioned in there something about somebody being a jack of all trades, that old adage, jack of all trades, master of none. And you were saying earlier about, simplify the system so that you're just doing that job. And you want to get the fundamentals down of that job. And so, like the company I've been selling for all year, it's one of the great things is, salesmen just go sell. People in the office, they just do what they do. And we chunk it down so that you're a master of what you're doing. And that's one of the big things in this book is going in and becoming a master of it, but also starting with fundamentals. This is how you put on your socks so you don't get blisters. Was one of the things they mentioned there. I think it was wooden. But yeah, so with the guys I train, like you said, sandwich artists, like I literally hire people that are working at Taco Bell, Wendy's, and whatnot, and I have to turn them into a roofing salesman. That's my job. And so I bring them in, and this is a roof. This is a different type of roof. Let me show you know, and you go through those fundamentals, and you learn. Like, we're so used to things, the jargon that we use and what we see every day, we forget to someone, and this is all new to them. And so we have to go over the same things over and over again. And I'm going to stop trying to gloss over things and run to the next thing to try and move them up too fast before they're ready. And I'm going to take my people more through the fundamentals and make sure that they really understand the fundamentals, because otherwise 2 weeks in, you've got them trying to sell something and you realize halfway through their conversation, they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's on me. So
Sure.
I'm going to take through the fundamentals going forward.
Awesome. Yeah. And you kind of touched on this element of the book as well that I thought was fascinating, of chunking. And he uses the example, he, reads off a sentence and he's like, you recognize all those chunks because you've been a student of the English language. Those chunks, we've got a chunk is a sentence. A chunk is, a smaller chunk is a word. An even smaller chunk is a letter. And you chunk that down and it's like a series of lines. And we recognize that series of lines is a W. And that W is the first letter in the word we. And that's what that means, and building it out that way. So if we look at, again, bringing this back to the roofing industry, I think you can, chunk this down. Okay, I'm going to chunk this down to just the inspection portion of our deal. Maybe the talking to the customer before, talking to the customer after, filing the claim, supplementing, all that sort of stuff. Get that out of there. We're not going to look at that chunk. And we can break an inspection up into our elevations, our top of ladder, and our on roof. Let's just look at our elevations. And you can chunk that down further. Okay, let's just look at our downspouts. How do we inspect a downspout? And so you can do a training for your guys on, this is how we inspect and chalk and document a downspout. And, and then a separate one on here's what we look for on windows. I think I was in the roofing business for like a year or two before someone was like, yeah, this is, where the beading is like broken. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know to look for that. And so like, I think those things that we take for granted, if we've been in the industry for a while, those people that are brand new don't know. And you're just not going to get to that granular level of detail if you're trying to do the whole thing all at once. Here's an inspection. You need to, break that down into, here's an inspection of this one component, and we're going to, just stack those things and build those things and allow repetition. Richard, I'm just going to, kind of throw out there free topic here. What about this book that, really stood out to you? What did you really like about it?
I would say part of the book that really stuck out to me was the ignition part. Mm-hmm. Basically, what is it that motivates someone? He says, I noted down, he says, being highly motivated, when you think about it, is a slightly irrational state. One forgoes comfort now in order to work towards some bigger prospective benefit later. I want X, but it's not that simple. I want X later, so I better do Y like crazy now. And it's not as if these people that have gone on to achieve great things, and in our world, right, the $1 million salesman, and I don't even know if right, up front, if that's maybe the success we need to be pointing people to, at least not if they've only done it for 1 year. There's obviously a lot more that goes into it. A lot of guys really should be giving credit to the system that they're in. Someone built a great system for them to take advantage of, or a great brand. But at the same time, one thing that I love about social media and the ability that we have to do something like this is to inspire someone. A big part of what he talks about here is for like the South Korean woman, it was this one event in '94, I believe. I forgot her name off the top of my head, but she went on to win some championship, and it was aired, and it was aired on TV. It was a crazy event, and from that point on, Korean mothers were like, "We're making sure our daughter takes practice," but it ignited this, like, she can do it, my kid can do it too. And then these girls saw that, and I want to be like her. And the Russian girls watching their Olympian with the ponytail and the certain clothing, they all mimic that. I did not realize the 4-minute mile was considered impossible up until recently, within the past few decades. But someone systematically broke the 4-minute mile, and all of a sudden,
that was around the turn of the century. Yeah, with Robert Bannister. Yeah,
and like soon after that, like 6 people broke a 4-minute mile, and it hadn't been done before then. And for me, I really enjoyed that. And what I've been thinking about recently is just how can we do that for people in our industry, whether that's the laborer, whether that's the salesman, whether that's the business owner, showing them, like, because a lot of these guys, they're so busy, they're working, and they really don't think that the 4-minute mile can be passed. Everyone has told them it can't be. It's never been done. But the more we talk to people, the more we meet people, we're like, wait, someone's already done this. Someone has had these headaches. I don't know.
Sold 10 million. Oh, I didn't know 10 million was even a possibility, right?
Yeah, someone can sell 10 million in a year? What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden that guy that had his sights set on 1 million.
Yeah, or in the supplementing world, these full-time supplementers who, like, I talked to them for a while over the past summer working with Balance, and man, I can't, I've got 40 to 60 supplements that I'm dealing with right now. I just can't get through them. And then they would talk to an actual supplementer, professional supplementer, who's doing 100 to 200 supplements a week. Like, how do they do that? I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing it. And this is the system and process that they're using. And I know for me, I'm kind of seeking out those people. Like, who are those people that I can point to and say, see, he did it. Look at that laborer. I know of laborers who make $100,000 a year, and they spend time with their family on the weekends. Like, they're not working 7 days. Because let's not confuse the guy who sells for $1 million and doesn't have a family or lost his family in the process, right? Or the laborer, the business owner. There's guys out there who have grown their families, have grown their friendships, and grown their businesses and their income. And I'm always now more than ever, trying to identify those people and find that something that ignites the talent in others, right? He throughout the book, he talks about myelin, right? I think it's great that he brings up this myelin concept. It's the tissues that surround the nerve structures in the brain. Mm-hmm. And he basically keeps breaking down this wall you keep building while you read the book. And you're like, no, but that person, they had this, or they were born with this, he's like, no, what is it about that person that you think is extraordinary? This is this chemical in their brain weren't born with it. It was put there, like these scenarios, these circumstances, the hardships. He basically says, you have to have these obstacles, and these obstacles, like you're talking about those guys playing futsal in a room, they're touching the ball a lot more. Those synapses are running a lot more, and that myelin around that part of their brain is stronger and more well built. It's not magical as much as you want to call it magic or luck or destiny or fate. He really breaks it all down, and I love it. This is not really a self-help book, right? This is not. You don't read this book going, how, this really helped me. Well, at least I did. I read it going, wow, he's basically telling you this is how you help others. This is how others came to be. Nobody was born with what they have. There was these factors that made the difference. And really, I know for me, I want to, as much as I can, start to identify those factors, not just in my life, but those around me, and basically build what he calls talent. It's not really talent. He puts it down. I have it, and I'll finish with this. I can talk forever if you haven't noticed. Talent in its strictest sense is the possession of repeatable skills that don't depend on physical size. He's like, sorry to break that to you guys, all you guys who, but it's not dependent on your size or your IQ. It has nothing to do with that. It's basically a repeatable set of skills that you acquire over a course of people and things that happen in your life. And you can make those happen in people's life. Like you can say things. You can tell a kid, oh, you did you practiced so great. That's awesome. Or, wow, you seem really good at this. Well, those two little phrases he shows made like a world of difference. The kids who were told, hey, you're smart, whenever they did badly, they took that as a sign that, wait, I'm not good at this. And the kids who were praised, hey, you did a really good job studying at this. You must have worked really hard. Those kids work even harder when they did poorly. Yeah. And little phrases you don't really think about as a business owner, what you say to someone and as to your colleagues, to the people around you. I mean, little stuff, 6 words makes literally a world of difference.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, is that focus of whether it's about how your ability or about what you've put into it, and what that makes you say and what that causes them to do. I think this book is really twofold. It's number one, how can I train other people? How can I, so that they're effective, so that they can build their skills in a really good way. But also for me, just selfishly, I'm like, this is helping me understand how I can build those skills.
Yeah, what's my talent?
Whatever skills it is, whether it's my golf swing or training or whatever. Understanding how my brain is working, like you said, those myelin, which was basically like I liked how he explained it with the like a copper wire. Your brain has these impulses that go across for every little thing you could possibly do, and that myelin basically insulates it, and it loses less and less energy, so it goes faster and faster. So like literally like thousands of times faster once it's that highway is created, and it's that trail is run down deep. And so knowing that, I was reading this, and I'm the perpetual optimist. I was like, if I had known this when I was a kid, I could have been like a professional athlete.
All right, I was thinking the same thing.
It's
my parents' fault. They didn't give me the right words.
Right. If I had just known this, but maybe not. You still have to put in the work, right? Yeah. To create those pathways and wear those pathways to where they're effective. But I think he talks about that deep practice, and I think an important element for anybody that hadn't read the book is that they break that down, like we said, into the chunks, but then they also manipulate time, and they slow things down, and they do it piece by piece. They talked about that Russian tennis club that's created like some of the best tennis players in the world, like dozens of them, and it's one tennis court in like a ghetto area with like no private lessons, and they play tennis without a ball in slow motion. And that was like mind-boggling to me. And the instructor will correct them as they're walking across, say the imaginary ball was hit across, diagonal, and they have to get 15 feet over there. With tennis, it's important, your posture, which foot you're leading with, how high or low you are, all these things. So they're correcting those things in the slow. and that way they can set that pathway correctly to begin with, and then they can gradually increase the speed as they get more proficient with it, and then they're doing it right. I see so many people, just going back to, it's an easy thing to talk about, like doing a roof inspection. These guys are like, yeah, man, like I've done 1 million roof inspections. And it's like they took like 4 photos on each of those 1 million roof inspections, and like you can't tell what's what, they're disorganized. It's, blurry, like it's garbage. And, I think you really do new guys a disservice in this industry to just go out there and do it, because they're going to go do it, but they're probably going to do it wrong because they don't know what those things are that are important. They don't know, that you need to lean your shoulder across this way when you have a forehand strike. Like they don't know what things are important, so they're just going to go through and do it.
Yep.
Whereas we can help them walk through slowly, pay attention to those things that matter. And it may be just a snail's pace at first, but once you have that system and that plan down, they can keep speeding that up to where they get a lot further that way. David, same toss-up question to you. Tell me, anything about this book that stood out to you that we haven't talked about thus far?
So one of the things going way back, we were talking about that Renaissance, and you were mentioning, Richard, that, what was special about this place. And he talked about, some people have an idea that the Renaissance came out of this great time. And in reality, they came out of a time of plague and political turmoil. And then they had this great Renaissance from that. And I think that says that we're at a period of time maybe where not only can we have an opportunity for ourselves if we will go into deep practice and work on our myelin, but also we can affect the next generation by training the young people and thing. But on the myelin, I did a little extra research on it, went a little deeper into it because I was trying to figure out what all that is exactly. And apparently it is made of cholesterol, protein, and saturated fat, which kind of surprised me. I think I'll go keto from now on. But so more bacon, guys. But on the myelin, foods that are good for myelin, jokes aside, salmon, chia seeds, flax, walnuts, and soybeans, ladies.
Wait, eating healthy is good for you?
Yeah.
Jury's still out.
So hit the gym every day and get your healthy fats in. Our brains, I was reading on it a little more, our brains can actually repair our myelin. So even if you've been screwing up to this point, your brain can actually produce chemical that'll actually help rebuild your myelin. And one of the big things is getting rid of inflammation, and don't do meth. So if you do those things, then you're going to be smarter, sharper, faster, bigger, stronger, and you're going to have a better future.
That's right.
So just PSA, don't do meth.
Don't do meth. You heard it from David Summerly, folks.
Heard it here first. That's awesome. Yeah, I finished the book about 20 minutes before the show, so I didn't get a chance to do a bunch of extra research and look like the honor student here. But I'm reading a book every week here, so give me some credit. But guys, one of the things, it's not related to the book necessarily, and Richard, I know you're not going. We are a week out from RoofCon that's happening a week from today in Houston, Texas. Guys, if you're watching this show, whether it's the live feed or it's after the fact, and you're going there, shoot me a message, put a comment on here. I want to connect up with everybody that I can. And it's not about like, you don't have to buy my training. You don't have to do that or whatever. I want to connect with more people. The whole point of this podcast was to connect with people that are intentional about learning and growing. And, we're doing that through books in this context. But I want to connect up with more people that's their mindset.
So Matt, to your point,
yeah,
on this book, right? The ignition, maybe not the deep practice, but the ignition and the master coaching. I think conventions are a great place for that. Whenever I meet a business owner who's like kind of in the dumps or, their headspace is just completely chaotic, I say go to convention. You're gonna see people. I just know the first time I went to an IRE event, I was like blown away. All of our guys came back excited, pumped, and the smart ones come back the next year bigger and better because of what they learned. It really takes a convention kind of, not just any convention, right? This is RoofCon. This is not just a place where people are hawking you their shingles. I mean, this is a place where guys are really talking about the essence of what makes their roofing company, restoration company successful.
Yeah.
And talk about a place to get ignition, right? A place to get excitement to see, you know what, next year I'm coming with my 4 guys. I'm going to bring my F-250 King Ranch, right? I'm going
Platinum, dude.
Yeah, platinum. It's a great place for that. I'm not able to go. I have a daughter to be born here due in like 3 days.
Congrats.
So otherwise, I would be going there. I told my wife to speed it up, but it's not happening. But trust me, my heart will be there.
Yeah, I think that's a good
all the best.
The conferences, especially this RoofCon one that we have coming up. I think you get all 3 pieces of this. I think you get that futsal type of like pressure cooker environment where you're getting a lot of touches. You're, instead of being in your little bubble where you're playing soccer by yourself or whatever, you're kicking the ball back and forth with a bunch of other people that have different situations, different experiences, different learning or whatever. So I think there's that piece of it. There's that you can learn a lot just from your fellow contractors. There is that ignition of getting inspired and seeing, okay, this other contractor is just like me and he's doing 5 times the volume.
And he's 10 years younger.
And he's 10 years younger and 10% better margins.
And he runs a book review podcast on top of it all.
Yeah. So whatever it is, you can get that ignition and go, you know what, this is possible for me as well. Just like those South Korean golf ladies that
I say tennis,
yeah, you mixed it up, but it's no big deal. And so, you can get that ignition piece, and then obviously you can get that kind of coaching mentorship piece. There's all sorts of different trainers, consultants, people like that, whether it's somebody that you're paying or somebody that you're not paying. There's all sorts of information where you can get that training and get that feedback so that you can increase what you're doing. Whether that's more revenue or just more efficient, where you can spend more time doing what you want to do. We've all got to pay the bills though. So a lot of times it comes back to that. Guys, I think we're coming up on what I usually consider our 45-minute time limit here. David, tell me, I guess, anything else you wanted to add to the conversation here?
So one of the things we didn't address was the 10 years or 10,000 hours, which, comes out of some other books as well, but it's addressed in there. And I was thinking on it, they say you need 10,000 hours or 10 years, but if you were to go 10 hours a day deep into something, then in under 3 years, roughly 1/3 of the usual time, you can become a world-class expert at something. So if you want to become world-class, you can be, and you can do it. You don't have to take 10 years to do it, but you're going to have to go all in and go hard on it for a while on that. But on the conference, I was just going to say, and I've been guilty of it myself, but a lot of, especially in roofers, we like to party. A lot of guys go to these conferences, they go out, they party, they're drinking. Drinking actually will reduce your myelin, gentlemen. But what you want to do, you don't want to go party every night and then kind of barely be there for the conference every day. We do a lot of conferences, right? So you can go party the last night, sure. But for the first few nights that we're there, take it easy. You know what I'm saying? Take it easy at night and make sure you're all in so you can have that deep immersion training during the day so that you're showing up early and getting in those breakout sessions.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I'm excited about this conference specifically. Not that it's like a nobody's allowed to drink thing or like anything like that, but that's not the focus of it. It's not, hey, let's go to this conference so we can go party. It's let's go to this conference so that we can really grow as people and level up, and learn some things.
Isn't there another love, like the Be Bold Brotherhood or something like that?
Yeah, so that's
Old brother.
Old Brotherhood.
yeah, they all kind of go together. So with Old Brotherhood as well as
That's unique right there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to find that kind of camaraderie anywhere else in our industry.
Yep. Yeah.
That's not trying to sell you something.
Right. So like I said, you guys shoot me a message if you're going to that. Let's connect up, whether you buy my stuff or not. It's not about that. Guys, I want to thank both of you so much for being on the show, especially David, because I gave him 2 days notice. And
Well done.
he went through the book a few times in 2 days. You guys did not disappoint. And I'm going to go ahead and give a brief thanks. So thank you guys for being here. We'll see you next time. And I wanted to let everybody know what's coming up in our schedule. We've got a lot of things planned out right now. So next week, it's going to happen. I'm going to be at RoofCon when we do that. But it's going to be 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss. I've got Zach Blankensop, as well as Laura Nelson that are going to be on that show. Zach is a roofing contractor here in the U.S., and he travels around a lot. It travels around extensively and manages his business from his laptop and phone and that type of thing. And so I am just fascinated to hear from him how the heck he's done it, because I know a lot of guys that are there in person and can't manage their time, can't manage those things. And Laura Nelson's always great. The following week, so 2 weeks from today, I'm going to have Delay, Deny, Defend by Jay Feynman. And I'm going to have Trevin Warren from Promise Construction, as well as London Crounce from Daily and Black on that show. And I'm really looking forward. These are two really smart guys, really know policy. They know how the insurance companies work. They know the laws really well. And so we're going to dig into that. It's going to be a little bit more industry specific. And the following week, we're kind of going a different direction, is The Bullet in Me. And this one's by a contractor named Sherman S. Brown. And he's out of Memphis here in my state of Tennessee, as well as Elizabeth, and I can't say her last name, Calzadilla, maybe something like that. They're both going to be on that show. Really excited about that one. Sherman, I haven't read the book yet. I've got it sitting right up here. But he really, it's called The Bullet in Me, Turning Pain into Power. And it's kind of about his story, as far as I understand it, of, coming out of a rough situation and finding success in the contracting industry. So those are the next few weeks that we've got coming up. I encourage you guys to check those out. Check out those books. Go on our Restoration Referral System Facebook page to the events and RSVP to those events. It helps me out because it helps people see that you're going and they want to check it out as well. But it's going to help. It'll send you a little reminder that the show's coming up so that you don't miss it. You can look in on that. But guys, thanks for checking out the Talent Code. Really, I think this book on Amazon was like $12. And if you're doing 1 hour a week of training with your guys, really anytime at all, this is a huge opportunity for investing into the $12 to buy the book, the however many hours it is to read the book, say 6-8 hours to read the book, and you're going to have huge dividends on that. If you've read the book or you're going to read the book, shoot me a comment, let me know, and we will see you guys next week, next Thursday at 3 p.m.